The following program contains names, places, and events that have been anonymized or fictionalized for the purposes of protection and safety. The following program is provided for entertainment purposes only, and any commentary from the hosts are strictly conjecture and should not be held as making any definitive statements about the truth or identity of any particular individuals or circumstances. If you or a loved one are involved in an abusive relationship, please call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233 for support.
I'm like, what if that camera turned on? You're like, yeah, good for them. Anyway, we're talking about doing Zooms in the shower. Hi, guys.
Hi, good Monday morning to ya. Good morning.
Does anybody listen to us in the shower? Like, do you have like a shower speaker? I definitely listen in the shower, but I don't bring anything into said shower.
Wait, what?
They have like waterproof shower speakers, so you can listen to all kinds of stuff in the shower. Maybe the dating detectives.
Yeah. Well, my husband brings his phone into the shower and he watches
like fully movies. In the shower?
Yeah. And like he puts it on the little shelf where the shampoo sits and he like watches YouTube videos and watches movies. Like,
what if he gets water damage?
No, they're waterproof now. It's no big deal.
All right.
Yeah.
So let us know if you're in the shower right now and listening to this Mackenzie Undercover with us.
Are you guys so excited for a Mackenzie Undercover story?
I need it.
This one I haven't told because if you guys are new here, there's a lot of times when I have what's called imposter syndrome. So really quick tidbit. When I was in college, my college professor told me I'd never make it as a PI because I was a girl and that was a man's industry.
Bitch.
And so ever since then, for the last 20 years, I listened to him. And so for 20 years, I'm like, I'm a PI, but I shouldn't be. And then people are like, you need to tell your stories. And I'm like, who's going to care?
Yeah, they're not that interesting, which is so funny. Every single time you tell a story, you're like, well, this one might not be good.
Yeah. So all this time I'm thinking these stories are stupid. And people are like, dude, like this is a crazy, interesting story. Like it's not even just about the story, but it's about the job itself. And anyway, so.
Well, I'm glad that you have pushed through that imposter syndrome because it's true that even when you can be like, I know that person is wrong, the things people say just sits with you. It does not go away. The body keeps the score. So I think.
Well, I started telling the PI stories online. So anyways, here we are.
And now we get Mackenzie Undercover stories, which is like the times 10 version of the Instagram stories. So I'm thrilled.
So I want to tell you about a dogfish.
What? No way.
No way. A dogfish. I like to tell you guys about the dogfish that I encounter as a PI. But before we get into it real quick, I have to thank you guys for always sharing our podcast with your friends and sharing it on your social media. We get so many people who are like, oh my gosh, my friend so-and-so told me about your podcast and this really touched me or this really helped me or whatever. And so when you guys share, it really means the world and you really don't understand how you sharing could really impact someone's life. And
it could make them realize that they might be in an abusive relationship. That is something that's like, I hate when people come to us with the stories of what's happened to them. But if they're like, hearing this story made me realize this pattern and I didn't realize that it was a bad thing. That's mind-blowing that can happen, but it makes sense.
Just know that it raises awareness when you share our podcast. Not only that, but the guests that come on and tell their stories. Oh my gosh, like crazy. And oftentimes we do updates on our Patreon. So the Patreon's $5 a month. So don't hesitate to join the Patreon. It's an amazing community there too. So.
Okay, let's do it. I want to know.
Okay, let's
I'm
do
ready.
It. So, okay, Hannah, I would like you to give a, what do you call it in science? When you guess.
Hypothesis?
Okay, give a hypothesis on how this story starts.
Sometimes you ask me this and it's a trick question. So
no trick. What do you think the story is going to start out with?
Okay, I assume that either a husband or a wife calls you and says, I think my spouse is cheating. Get them.
Kind of. Okay, so usually that's a really good start. Usually that's how they begin, right? Okay, so I get a phone call from a woman, okay? But my surveillance doesn't start until later down the road. So this woman calls me And she says, listen, I got your name from a friend of a friend, and I want to do a little investigation. And I said, okay, what are you looking to investigate? And she says, I'll be honest with you, I'm really not sure where to start.
But her femtuition was just kind of going off?
Well, not exactly. So she says, I need to investigate what I think is a fraud. And I say, a fraud? Okay, well, my specialty is surveillance. And a lot of the cases that I work are fraud cases. These are like workers' comp fraud where people get injured at work, or people say they get injured at work and then they're like, oh, I have a broken neck. I can never work again. Pay me a bunch of money.
And then you catch them skiing or something.
Yeah. So like a lot of the fraud that I work with is people that are saying they're injured, and then I do surveillance. So surveillance is my specialty for 20 years. Okay. That's what I know. That's what I do. And there's PIs do different kinds of surveillances. Like you might have a PI who specializes in digital forensics, or someone who specializes in, missing persons, whatever. I do surveillance. Okay. Anyways, so she says, I have a little bit of a suspicion of fraud, and I've called the cops, but they are not really helping me. So she says that for the last 6 to 8 months, she's been getting, those toll violation notices that you get like on the Sun Pass, like you have the Sun Pass.
Yeah, you took the easy path.
Yeah, the easy pass
lane, and you shouldn't have.
Yeah. So we have the interstate, right? I-4, which goes straight across the state of Florida. And if you don't want to take the interstate, they have toll roads. And so it'll branch off to go different directions. Well, you don't need a Sun Pass to go through those. If you drive through the toll road, not even a toll booth, you just keep on driving, right? It will just take a picture of your license plate in your car, and it'll send you a notice in the mail saying, hey, this is how much you owe us for taking the toll road.
Right. It's always like a fun little surprise. You're like,
like,
I'm getting a present soon.
And then, fun fact, if you don't pay your tolls by the time you have to renew your tag on your car, they do not let you renew your tag. So you have to catch up on your tolls. Fun fact, I learned that the hard way a couple years ago, whatever.
And do you have to pay like fees? Because for us, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
So anyways, this lady says that for 6 to 8 months, I've been getting these toll notices, and it's clearly my car, or a car that looks like mine, but I don't go through the tolls. My husband doesn't go through the tolls. So just to kind of paint a picture, this is a woman who's 41. Her husband is 40, so they're very close in age. He's just a tad younger than her. They've got 2 kids, and they're elementary school age, right? So nothing crazy, just a regular, like, what do they call that? A nuclear family or whatever.
2.5 kids and a dog. Got it.
Yeah, 2.5 kids. She's a stay-at-home mom, and they share a car. So this is the only car that they have between them, right? So she drives it too on days that he doesn't have to work. He works at a car dealership, so sometimes he's off on the weekends, sometimes he works on the weekends, whatever. So they do both use the car. And they have a baby too, a newborn baby.
Well, the newborn baby is definitely stealing this car and driving through the tolls.
The baby's taking the tolls.
There.
Well, she keeps getting these toll violation notices, and she's like, well, I'm not going to pay it because we didn't take any tolls. Like, that's weird, right? And if you're sharing a car with your spouse, you're probably trying to save money, right? So I imagine that she's counting her dollars. Like, I don't want to pay, even if it's just like $4 or $8, however much it is.
Yeah, plus it adds up.
Yeah, it adds up. So she's like, once or twice a week or a month, or randomly a couple times a month at least, they would get these toll violation notices, different times of day, different times of night, different, just random times.
Do you know my question? The question.
What is it? What is it?
Well, I'm just assuming you're going to ask her, what does her husband deny that he's been using it? Like, he says, oh, I have no idea what you're talking about when you see these toll violations.
Yeah. So of course I say, okay, so she's saying me and my husband don't do this. And of course I ask her, so you've asked your husband? And he's like, yeah, I have no idea. That's so weird. So they together are both denying it to each other. But he says, it's no big deal. It's fine. I will call and take care of it. But they kept getting the notices. And so she finally is like, you know what? I'm done with this. He says, I'm going to take care of it, but he never does. So she says, I call the cops, and I let you can call the non-emergency number and say, hey, this is going on. And they refer her to the Department of Transportation or toll, whatever the department is.
Sure.
And they're like, well, that is you, because they took a picture of your tag. So now she's saying, Well, I've looked it up on the Google machine, and the Google machine is saying that people can defraud tags. Basically, someone has stolen their tag number, but they've put it on, like they have the same kind of car that they do. So she's thinking that someone has the same kind of car and they just are putting like using a fraudulent tag to make it look like it's them who should be getting the ticket or whatever.
That
right?
seems like a lot of work for a few tolls. Like, why would somebody do that?
Yeah, unless they're taking tolls a lot and they don't want to rack up the money, or they're trying to hide, or they're trying to drive without being identified, or whatever the case is. Yikes, right?
Okay.
So I'm like, that's really weird, but it's not really something that I specialize in, especially because this is your license plate tag, your license plate on your vehicle is government property. It is against the law. It is a felony to deface it, to change it, to alter it in any way. Right. So you're not allowed to do that. So husband says, I'm going to take care of it. And she said, I've asked him multiple times and he says that he's called. So she says, I'm going to call myself. And this is, from what I gather, this is a very traditional type family. Like she stays at home. She cooks the sourdough. She has a sourdough channel. She's really involved with the church and the youth program. When I was talking to her, she even told me, she's like, I hate that I'm even calling a PI. Like, this is not something I would ever do. This is beyond me, but I just need help.
Did she tell her husband she was calling you?
No.
Got it.
So but she wasn't keeping it from him. She thought, well, no one's helping him. Maybe they'll help me. He doesn't know that she's calling. She's like, he's just slammed at work.
Right. I don't want to bother him. Let me just see if I can take care of it.
Yeah. And I told her, I said, that's a government thing. That's something I can investigate. Like I would need their record. It's a whole big thing. And I said, I do surveillance. So I wouldn't even know where to start with that. Right.
Yeah, do you have to like park by the toll and just
see? So I say, maybe do some surveillance. And she's like, no, he's not. It's not him. Like there's nothing to do surveillance on. Like he goes to work. She said he goes to work every day. And I know he does. I talk to him 10, 12 times a day at work. He's always there. Every time I call his place of work, he answers. He always comes to the phone. He gets on the video chat with me. He's on FaceTime with me. He's at work. And the times that he's using this vehicle, he's at work. She said, I know that he's been at work. I've called him. I, just kind of got a little suspicious. So I checked my phone records and sure enough, he's been at work. Like I know that he's at work. It's not me and it's not him. She said, I can't even leave during the day. I don't have a car when he goes to work.
Is someone taking the car? Is he lending the car?
Right. So I'm like, okay, like, one of these things is not like the other. Like what's happening?
If you like this podcast, then you are going to like Delete Me. Delete Me makes it easy, quick, and safe to remove your personal data online at a time when surveillance and data breaches are common enough to make everyone vulnerable. We talk about this all the time. Everything is out there, and we can't even know how much is out there. So Delete Me does the hard work for you. It wipes you and your family's personal information from data broker websites. And the way that works is like you put your information anywhere, a data broker website can sell it. Like it just gets out far beyond what we can control on our own. And Delete Me knows that your privacy is worth protecting. And we're not talking about like social media. It's not like we're going to say, delete all your accounts. This is more like you don't realize where your social security number might be, your phone number, your address. So you don't realize where that information is. And Delete Me will help you delete exactly that. You can put in your information that you want taken away, and it will send you regular personalized privacy reports showing what info they found, where they found it, and what they removed. It's also not a one-time service. Delete Me is always working for you, just constantly monitoring and removing personal information that you don't want on the internet. Delete Me is something that we've offered to guests who have come on our show who deal with harassment, stalking. It's something that we've used. Mackenzie has used. She, as a PI, knows how easy it is to find stuff and knows that for people that are trying to protect themselves, it is a valuable tool. Identity theft, harassment, doxing. If you have been a victim of any of those things, you probably know somebody who has. If you haven't, Delete Me can help. Delete Me is a great first step for protecting yourself. It can help with a lot of what you want to get rid of. So take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me now at a special discount for our listeners. Get 20% off your Delete Me plan when you go to joindeleteme.com/datingdetectives. and use promo code TDD at checkout. The only way to get 20% off is to go to joindeleteme.com/datingdetectives and enter code TDD at checkout. That's joindeleteme.com/datingdetectives, code TDD.
I've been a PI for a long time, and I'm like, if something, like if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, quack, quack, you know what I mean? Like it's probably a duck. And so I'm like, I don't trust this guy. Like she's saying that she can't leave. She can't do anything. So either she's lying to me, telling me some story and trying to get me to prove something so she can hold something over his head, or he's really lying.
So what made you like take the case if you had some doubts like that? Because I know in the past sometimes you've... Oh, you didn't. Okay.
Not at first. So I kept telling her, I said, this is nothing that I can help you with. And I tried to give her different ideas, like make sure you email them so that you like, don't just call, like email, make sure you have documentation. I said, reach out to everyone you can, like literally document it. And just like I say on the podcast all the time, document everything. But I said, email, every email address you can come up with that has a .gov, Florida Highway Safety, Motor Vehicles, whatever .gov, email every single thing you can come up with. And I helped her find some of the emails or whatever. So for a couple months, she sends emails. And over the next couple of months, she tells me, she's like, I'm just not getting anywhere. I don't know what to do. And I said, do surveillance. And she's like, no, there's nothing to do surveillance on. She says there's nothing. I don't know what to tell you. Like and I told her
is expensive. So
surveillance
she's
is expensive.
I get it.
They're sharing a car, so I'm sure they're trying to save money. So not only does she want to pay these tolls, but she doesn't want to pay me $100 an hour to do surveillance on nothing that she thinks is nothing. So after a while, I felt like I knew what was going on. And so I wanted to help her out. But, you know, I'm a little softy sometimes when it comes to, you know, when you're really good at something and someone's like, I could really use this help. And you're like, well, I know what I could do to help. That's me.
If this is a dogfish situation, that's what we do. We got to catch a dogfish.
But here's the kicker. As a licensed private investigator in the main state where I'm licensed is Florida, if you are participating in unlicensed private investigator activity, you could get in a lot of trouble. There's like a $25,000 fine. Like you can get in big trouble. It's like felony. It's a whole big thing.
So like surveillance that you do is illegal to do if you're not hired to do it.
Yeah. If she doesn't hire me, then there's right. So I was just like, well, I'm going to take my day off and I want to go see for sure.
You're like, I'll just go see if I want to buy a car.
Right. So the next couple of months that we're talking and I'm like, gosh, I could really help her. But I'm such a person that's so by the book.
Yeah.
So anyways, I say, you know, my femtuition's kicking in. I just know. And bless her heart, I feel like there's a lot of naivete going on. Like she trusts this fella. So I tell her, I say, listen, I want you to hire me. She said, I just don't want to do surveillance and I don't have the money. And I'm like, listen, I said, give me $100.
Yeah.
Right. Like give me a solid $100.
Even $1. We just need to make this on the book.
Yeah. We need to put this on the records. But I told her, I said, give me $100 because I knew that I was going to spend as many days as I needed to find out what was going on because I just knew that I was not going to let this go. So now I can't sleep. Right. So she finally says, you know what, bless your heart. I think it'll be a big waste of your time. But if you think it's worth it to go out there and spend your time on it, I guess by all means, like you have my blessing or whatever. And I said, okay. And just for the sake of all of my PI cases, I ask the question, okay, whatever information I obtain, what are you going to do with it? How are you going to use it? Is there anticipation of litigation? If there is anticipation of litigation, meaning that they think that the information I get could in some way be used in a court case in the future, that gives me all the access that I need. And now it's on her. Now it's on the client. So if they say, yes, I think this could be used in court later, that helps me to know that, okay, number one, we need to do things by the book. And number two, this person is prepared to use this information in court. So it helps me to see that they're not going to use it maliciously.
They're not just going to go seek revenge on their husband if he's having an affair.
And she said, well, I don't know if there's going to be if there's anticipation of litigation. Like
she's like, what do you think I'm going to find?
She's like, I don't think I can divorce him. This is a Christian woman. They don't do the divorce, right? So she's like, well, I don't know. And I said, answer me this. If someone has stolen your identity or stolen your car or whatever, are you prepared to press charges? And she's like, yeah. I said, okay, that's anticipation of litigation. So I decide I'm going to go do surveillance. And I'm like, I want to know from early morning, I want to know all day, what is this guy doing? So I do surveillance for 2. Now, she's not getting them often. It's just a couple times a month. That's why I knew. I was like, this is not an everyday event. So I was prepared to do surveillance for a couple days, right? So I take...
True. Oh, true. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So I take a couple days off in between surveillance cases and I do surveillance on this guy. And I kind of tell her what I'm doing, but not really, only because this is a woman who's very, like, she's very by the book also, and also very naive. And so I don't want her to say the wrong thing or too much things to the husband. So I'm like, let me look into it and see what I can do. And I took the dates and the times of when the car is going through the toll booth and kind of...
Was there a pattern?
No, there was no pattern. There was no pattern as far as the days. And whenever they take the picture, it's always a black and white picture that you get on the paper that they send you. And it's always just at the back of the car. You can't tell who's in it, right? And so that was my idea. Like, let's see who's in it. But you can't.
Yeah,
you
just
can
zoom
tell.
in. Okay, yeah.
So I decide I'm going to do surveillance and figure out what's going on from the beginning of the day to the end. So I go to her house first thing in the morning. I'm doing surveillance.
You go early.
Super early. Like, I'm there at 4 a.m. Okay. And the guy leaves at like 6:30 in the morning. He goes to work. So he goes to the car dealership. He does his thing. He's there for a good portion of the day. Sometimes he would get off early and come home. So for about a week, like 4 days during a 1 week period, I did surveillance on this guy. Nothing happens. And not only when you're doing a case, but when you're doing it for free, you're like, oh, questioning yourself. Like, oh, am I doing, like, this could be another month before I see anything.
I was going to ask you, when do you throw in the towel?
Yeah, you don't, because when you're a PI, you take pride in finding it. So you don't stop.
Yeah, but what if there's nothing? Like, what if this genuinely was, I don't know, like somebody else putting the wrong plates on their car and it had nothing to do with his car? You'd still be there to this day?
Well, there comes a point where legally you just like can't, like and financially you just can't afford to do it anymore. So you have to make a decision there, but you're
not thinking that way. You're like, there's no plan B right now. We're going to find this.
Right. In this moment, there's no plan B. I'm going to find out what's going on. So I decide I'm going to go back one more day. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but I just feel like if I give this one more day, something's going to happen tomorrow. And so I go to bed at like 7:30 p.m. I'm like, I'm going to get a long, decent night's sleep. And then I'm going to get up early and I'm going to go do the surveillance. The next morning, I pack my cooler full of all my snacks and I got my...
I'm imagining the Rocky theme song. That's like, dun, 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 dun. Yeah. She's like going out early, ready to do this.
Like, we are going to do this, right? Today is the day. Okay. So I go do surveillance and the guy goes to the car dealership. And usually I'd be like, okay, he's at the dealership. This is stupid. He's here. He's at work, whatever, blah, blah. Well, today I was like, something's going to happen today. I can feel it in my bones. Like, my PI spidey senses are tingling. I just know it. Sure enough, a car pulls up with like the little Uber like thing in the windshield.
Yes.
A young woman gets out of this Uber and it pulls up in front of the car dealership, right in front of the service department situation. And not in front of any windows. Like, it literally went around the building to the service department where there's no windows in front. She gets out and she walks around the other way to where there's no windows. So I'm kind of trying to keep an eye on this girl. And she gets into his car she never goes to see him. She never sees him. She gets into the car.
Girlie has a key.
So homegirl has a key. And so I'm like, either she's hijacking this car every day and dude knows nothing about it and she's just stealing his car and bringing it back.
Can you describe her for us?
Yeah. So at the time when I saw her, I'm like, she's really young. She's like, I don't know, 20. She looks like a baby. Like, she looks itty bitty. Well, I don't know her identity. She gets in this guy's car. She drives to a local community college and she's going to classes.
What?
So she gets dropped off in an Uber, drives far, but not too far, to a community college that's almost in the next county. And she does her classes. She comes back. She drops the car off at the dealership, doesn't talk to the guy, and then gets on her phone, calls another Uber, picks her up, and then she leaves.
What did you think that was? Because I don't have any theories.
Well, that's the thing, is that I don't know what to do here. Okay. So I'm like, do I follow her like, I want to see who she is. So I want to see like where she lives or whatever. Right. But it is the roads that she's taking are the toll roads, and it's the same tolls, and it's the same amounts, and it's the same everything of the notices. So this is clearly what's going on, right? This young woman is taking the car. And I'm like, well, I don't want to assume. Like, you never want to assume, oh, he's got a mistress, like, whatever.
Right. Well, I do want the commenters to assume. Like, tell me at this point in the story.
Yeah.
I don't know, put a pencil emoji, because this is where she's going to college, and tell me what you think at this point. Because I'm like, is it his daughter maybe or something? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay,
so what's going on? Does he have a secret family? What's happening, right?
Yeah. Well, my thing is just, why does she need to borrow the car? If she has the money to Uber to the car and Uber home, then Uber to class.
Why can't you Uber to class? I did not end up following her that day because I wanted to keep an eye on the car. And obviously this is something where she wouldn't get a toll notice until later, which also I'd want to know, like, how is the guy, like, this is going on for like 6 or 8 months, she said. And so you're telling me that now for like a year, this is happening and he's just saying, no, it's fine. Like, you would think he'd be like, hey, don't go through the toll road or something, like.
Right. If he's in on it, he would be like, we're going to get caught.
Yeah, exactly.
But then again, right? He's a man.
And mind you, she is reporting this as fraud, and she's getting responses back saying, we'll look into it, but your car hasn't been reported stolen. And she's like, no. And they're like, well, then you have to pay. She's like, I'm not going to pay it.
Maybe he really underestimates his wife. Maybe he thinks she's too stupid to do anything. She's not going to do anything. I'll just tell her stop worrying about it. And
yeah, that's what it seems like to me. But then she wants to be his hero and say, listen, I knew I wasn't supposed to, but they weren't really helping you. So I kind of took matters in my own hands. Ugh. To me, it kind of seemed like, that's what it was. So I'm like, all right. So anyways, I didn't follow her home, which it could have gone either way. If I did follow her home, I could have gotten her identity, but also I wanted to see if the car was going through the tolls after I got off work.
Right. Plus you could do another day.
Yeah, which was hit or miss because I didn't know if she would show up the next day. So the guy goes home after work. He goes to the gym. He does all of these things. Like, he's by himself. He's not seeing any other people. He drops some rented like books, book, video, whatever's at the library. Like, normal stuff. So he does all of this. And meanwhile, I'm keeping up with my client and I'm telling her what's going on. And I didn't want to spill the beans about the girl yet because I wanted to know more her identity. And if she told him,
what if the wife knows who it is?
Number one, but number two, I didn't want her to assume who it was. And number three, if she told him, then he might not have the girl. And then I could never find out who she was. And then I would die. So I was like, let me find out who she is first.
I would die. And then RIPB. Okay,
yeah,
keep going.
Exactly. So I have to find out who this girl is.
When was the last time you washed your sheets? Do you know how gross your sheets get? Guys, I think we're all lying to ourselves in denial. Traditional bed sheets can harbor more bacteria than a toilet seat. That leads to acne, your allergies, your stuffy nose. It's just gross. But if you get Miracle Made sheets, which you guys know we talk about all the time, that's a line of self-cleaning antibacterial bedding. They have sheets, pillowcases, comforters, and the way they're made is they're infused with silver that prevents up to 99.7% of bacteria growth. Like, who came up with that? They should get a Nobel Prize. Then they stay cleaner, fresher, longer. Temperature regulating, which is huge. Like, if you sleep really hot, they adjust to make it a little cooler. If you sleep really cold, it adjusts. I sweat so much sometimes, especially recently, my sleeping. I don't know what's going on. Like, I don't know. I'm like grinding my teeth more. I'm waking up sweaty. And then when I use my Miracle Made sheets, I don't wake up sweaty and gross. It really helps significantly. And then, like I said, better for your skin, doesn't clog your pores, doesn't cause breakouts. It's just a cleaner sleep. They're also just really comfortable, luxurious, without the high price tag. So it's nice and it costs a nice amount and it's cleaner and it feels like a 5-star hotel. And I just really love them. And I'm really excited that we get to talk about them. So upgrade your sleep this year. Go to trymiracle.com/TDD to try Miracle Made sheets today. And whether you're buying them for yourself or as a gift for a loved one, if you order today, you can save over 40%. And if you use our promo TDD at checkout, you'll get a free 3-piece towel set and save an extra 20%. Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you aren't 100% satisfied, you get a full refund. Upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. Go to trymiracle.com/TDD and use the code TDD to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40% off. Again, that's trymiracle.com/TDD to treat yourself. Thank you, Miracle Made, for sponsoring this episode.
So the next day, because whenever I take that back, when you said, was there a pattern? No, there wasn't. But actually, I guess there kind of was. Every time there was a toll notice, there was always 1 to 2 days of it. And then it would skip maybe one day, but they were never one day and then 30 days later and then 15 days later. They were close together.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, well, according to the tolls, like she didn't do anything yesterday, so I'm going to stay. So I did another day of surveillance, right? So the next day I do the surveillance. She doesn't come in the morning. And I'm like, fuck, I made a big mistake. I should have followed her home, whatever. She shows up in an Uber that afternoon. So I was like, all right. So she comes in the afternoon after lunchtime. She gets dropped off in a different Uber and she walks around the whole back of the building away from the windows, gets in his car and leaves.
No hello, no kiss hello or goodbye, nothing. No interaction.
And so I follow her. She goes to the community college and I sit there and I'm like, all right, I sit there, during the class, whatever. Same thing as before. She took the car back to the dealership. He was rushing her. By the time she got back to the dealership, he was off and he was standing outside tapping his foot like a maniac and like looking at his watch.
So this is also the first time you see them interact too.
This is the very first time I saw him. And like, basically that was my acknowledgement. He knew she's taken the car because you never want to assume, but now I know that he knows that she knows. Okay, so whatever. So Period. She arrives back. She parks the car in the spot. She walks back around the building around the other way, gets an Uber and leaves. Meanwhile, he walks to his car and he leaves. So now she has a key to the car and he knows about it because he's waiting for her to get back. He gets into the car. I found out that he was waiting for 35 minutes that day, right, for her to get off. And that actually kind of gets him busted because the coworkers, like they're whatever. So she drops the car off and she knows that she's in trouble, right? And so now I'm like, do I follow him? Do I follow her? Well, I end up following her to a grocery store, right? She goes inside. She
From
does
an Uber. She takes an Uber to the grocery store.
The Uber to the grocery store. She's walking around inside and then she calls another Uber and she goes home. So I'm like, this is just like she's at the grocery store, but like she's 20 and she's buying like real groceries. And I'm like, it just doesn't make sense. And I followed her into the grocery store. And when I got close to her, I was like, she does look really young. Like maybe I'm wrong. Like whatever. She looks like a young woman, right? So she gets another Uber. She goes home, but it's an apartment complex. So I can't figure out which apartment she goes into because it's this huge building. It's one of those that you would imagine college people live in because it's got the door and you can't get in. It's one of those really difficult ones, got the parking garage, the whole big thing. I still don't know her identity because I can't get into the building to find out what door she goes into, to find out more, whatever. And this is just day 2 of actually finding her, right? So I have no idea who she is. Well, this is where the power of social engineering comes in. So I end up calling the Uber company and I said, hey, I need your help. And you guys are going to get so mad at me for this. And I'm really sorry. So please.
Which is a great thing to do. I learned that from that FBI masterclass on negotiation. You should start the negotiation by saying like, you're going to be so mad at me for this.
No, you guys, our listeners of the Dating Detectives are going to be mad.
Oh, I thought you were going to say that's what you said to the Uber people. No, wait, why are they going to be mad?
Our listeners are going to be so mad because I made up a situation to get information and it was not a good situation. So I said, I think my boyfriend roofied my drink and made me forget everything. But I called this Uber and I think I lost my wallet or whatever and it's missing. And so, but I remember the call. And so anyways, I'm not going to say the whole conversation, but I did lie.
No, I think that, I mean, I'm sure you
because they weren't going to give me anything and I knew that. They're not going to be like, oh, let me tell you that. So I kind of...
You had to generate the sympathy.
I generated a sympathy and they were like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Hold on, honey, let me get that. And I was like, I want to make a police report and they need my ID. And I cried and I'm really sorry. But everybody's going to want to know how I got the information, how I got it. Okay,
well,
I lied.
I think here's the difference. It's like if we lie about that kind of thing as a normal, like, person, a civilian, that's really awful. you are licensed to socially engineer. You are licensed to get this information. Like, it's so different.
And so, side note, this is called pretexting. A pretext is where a private investigator might say, hey, I've lost my dog. It went in your backyard. Do you mind if I walk back there and take a peek? Right. And so it's not illegal. I feel personally in my heart that if you're trying to get information, like sometimes you got to lie, but usually they're not big lies that'll hurt anybody. And like telling a lie like that could really trigger someone or hurt someone's feelings. And so I get that it's not great, but I knew that the Uber driver wasn't going to give me any information unless I were to share a story that somehow made them feel sorry for me immediately. And they were like, oh my God, I want to help you. Let me get that for you.
Yeah.
And so I had to make it their idea to help me. And people want to help in general. They want to help a person in distress, especially a young woman who's calling and saying whatever. Anyways, I said, this is the car that it was, because I had documentation of the tag numbers of the Ubers. Because when everything that happens on a case, I document with my video recorder. So I had the tag numbers of the Ubers. So I said, I happened to be video chatting or something, and I got the tag number, and it happened to be on my phone. And thank God that it was. And I just need to, talk to whatever. So I got the information of the drive, and they were like, oh, okay. And they told me my name. And they said when they were on the phone, they were like, oh, Jane Doe, here you are right here. And I was like, bingo, bango, got it. Like now and to be honest, this is not things that you plan out. Like you have to know like what the next thing to say is on the spot. You can't plan out what someone's going to say on a phone. So anyways, but I was able to kind of manipulate the conversation a little bit and learn who this person was from the Uber company. And I'm really, really sorry, and please don't be mad at me, but that's what I did. Okay.
Don't do that if you're not a private investigator. And we know that lying about that is wrong.
That's a good point too. I'm licensed. So like I've done background checks and fingerprints and the hair, whatever test and like the drug and the whatever, they've background checked me, and the state said, we trust you enough to do these investigations. So that's the difference between me and someone who doesn't have a license,
right?
Is that I've been thoroughly vetted every 2 years for the last 20 years.
And also we know lying about that thing, it discredits victims, but that's not what we're talking about. Like we're just saying that so you guys know we're aware.
I felt bad, but also something was going on. There was no other way I was going to get. Like I couldn't just say, hi, I'm an investigator. Can you give me this information, please? They're going to be like, no, screw off. Get us.
And how sad that it's such a believable thing that it happens probably so much.
Right?
The Uber driver had no.
Which I would like to point out that the date rape drug, the roofies, that is no joke. That has happened to me before. And you don't remember anything. So this is, my story wasn't like even there's no, if anybody had gone through that, they'd be like, no, that's not how it works. And I knew that, but I just had to come up with something to me I think he tried whatever. Yeah. Anyways, so I'm really sorry. Please don't come at me. And I've already asked for forgiveness and the Lord said yes. So he washed away my sins. Anyways, so I get information. So now I know who this girl is. She's a professor at the community college. She is not a student, which I thought she was very young. She's a professor. She's 29 years old. Okay. So I find her. So if I can find her, what else can I find? Her social media.
Bingo.
Bingo, bango. So she's been with this guy for the last 8 years. The children
Mackenzie.
are 7 and 9.
Wait, what children? Hold on.
They're children. They have kids, the 7-year-old, the 9-year-old, and they have a little baby.
I thought you were talking about this professor.
No. The kids
I was like,
the husband.
Girl, what
sorry.
do you mean?
I'm sorry.
Okay. Husband and wife have been together.
So they've been together on and off for 8 years, but him and the wife have been together. Like they've been together since they're 17, 18, 19 years old, whatever. So now the woman who called and said, hey, I've got these toll notices, but this is definitely fraud. I need you to investigate this fraud. Like someone's fraudulently using my tag or stealing my car or something. But really, once I look on this girl's social media, it wasn't all like on Facebook. It says, hi, this is my boyfriend. And we've been together for 8 years. This is like on her social media. It said this. And on her Twitter, it says this. And I'm like, oh, yes. Okay. So that means that they've been together for 6 years. And then this says another year. And you're like, oh, that's 8 years.
Wait, can you tell me what the posts were? Are they photos of them together? Are they
just
interactions?
Pictures that are older, but it's never a picture of them together looking at each other or like looking at the camera. It's always a picture that is candid, like of the side side of his face or something, but you can tell that it's him. And so it made me wonder if he was like, oh, yeah, you can post that on social media, but just don't show my face. But how does she not know that he has a wife and kids? Like, she knows all of this. There's no way.
So what is his social media presence like?
And he doesn't have a social media presence.
He doesn't have anything.
He's just
does his wife?
No, she's not really. Like, she does, but it's very like, play Candy Crush, like what it has those posts on it or whatever.
Totally.
But like the kids aren't posted. Like they on the church, like on the church website, you can see that they're involved and this is so and so, and it says her name and it has their family's bio and all that stuff, right?
But he's not interacting with community college professor. We'll call her professor.
So then I'm like, okay, I want to find out more about her because that's going to tell me more about him. Because obviously he's not going to spill his guts, right? But also, why would she Uber to his work and then walk around the building if people knew about her? Do you know what I mean? So I was like, for sure, she knows about the family.
She knows it's a secret. She knows it's hush hush.
She knows, but for 8 freaking years anyway. So I'm like, okay, what's the dealio, right? So I do a little bit more of an investigation and I run what's called a comprehensive report. And a comprehensive report is basically something that private investigators have access to. We put in your name and information. It tells us your name, your social security number, your date of birth, your aliases, your phone numbers, email addresses.
All the way down to your AOL instant messenger from 5th grade.
Prodigy,
got
like
everything.
All of that stuff. You've got mail, all of it. It tells us where you work, who you've worked with, whatever. So I'm able to find all of this on her. And when I'm looking at her comp report, I just thought it was really weird that like she has no criminal record or anything, but she does have bankruptcies, which would explain why maybe she doesn't have a car, right? So she has no car to her name, whatever. And so I'm like, okay, well, she's got these bankruptcies, 2 bankruptcies. Like she's just a baby. Like she's
29, you said?
Don't they fall off after like 7 years? So you had to file bankruptcy at least 7. So you're filing bankruptcy when you're like 12, like, you know what I mean? And then to have time to, So she's not like very financially sound, right? Which for working for this, pretty big deal community college, like you would think whatever. Anyways, so I end up talking to the client. And once I found out all the information, I pieced together for her everything that's gone on. And I've said, this is what I found. This is what I did. This is how I followed her.
How do you tell her? Do you in-person phone? What's the paper
picture?
Picture?
That's a good question. So I did ask her to meet with me. So she gathered the baby while the kids were at school and she Ubered herself to the grocery store. Like she was like, she told the husband, she's like, I'm going to go to the grocery store. I just want to get out of the house. And he's like, okay. So I meet her up at the grocery store and it's in this plaza and they have this little bench like outside one of the restaurants next to the grocery store. So her and the baby, who doesn't know English yet, sat there on this bench and we chatted. And here's the reason that I don't want to do things like that over the phone is because I want to know that this person is safe. I want to know that they're not going to do anything like self-harm. If they get bad news, I want to make sure like she's home with the baby, especially. I know she's a mama. So I want to, number one, make her safe. So there's all kinds of different reasons. Yeah. And a lot of it's for safety. And I don't want her to get like half the story and then call the husband and then totally.
Yeah, she could hang up on you and go.
Yeah. And then I'm like,
his car. You don't know.
Wait, there's more, like just kidding or something at the end. And then she misses that part because she didn't like, you know what I mean? So I want to make sure that they're with me and that just a lot. Not oftentimes I can't do that, but I try to when I can. So I did.
Yeah.
So I tell her all the things. And she's dead ass just looking at me like, she's not like, oh, clutching my pearls. Like, I can't believe this. Like, she's like, and so you can tell that the wheels are turning and she's mathing in her head and she's doing all the tolls and she's like, but why? Like, neither of us can figure out why is he letting her and why the tolls and why all the things. So she decides while I'm there that she wants to call him and ask about the tolls again. But she lies to him. She's doing her little investigation. I just kind of sat back with my arms crossed, like, good for you. So she calls him and she says, hey, I'm at the grocery store. And she said, I just something popped in my head. I got a question for you. And he says, okay. And she said, you said that you called about someone using our license plate fraudulently, and someone's using our license plate that has a car like ours and trying to get us stuck with the bill. Those cotton-headed ninny muggins, like, how dare they, right?
Yes.
And and you can hear him. He's on the speakerphone and he goes, yeah, I'm just having a hard time getting anybody to get back to me. And she goes, you know what? Me too. they said that we had to report the car stolen. He goes, no, don't do that. Like if you report the car stolen and then it was never stolen and then we'll get in trouble and you can't do that. So just pay the bill. How much is it? Well, by this point, it's over $200 because they haven't paid it in over a year, right? So it's a lot of money. And she's like, well, I'll be.
Right. He's probably like, dang it, my nagging wife is making it so hard for me to have my little affair.
Exactly. And she's like, honey, I wanted to tell you, I solved it. I solved the mystery. And he said, oh, you did? And she's like, yeah. She said, I actually ended up getting a hold of someone that I called myself because I knew that they were giving you such a hard time. So I called them myself. Honey, you'd be so proud of me. And guess what they did? They sent me a picture of the car where you can see in the windows and we can identify the person who's driving it. She's a woman and she describes her. She said she's got blonde hair and now we know exactly who this person is. We just have to figure out like who she is or whatever.
The husband shits his pants. You know he's shitting his pants.
I think she's watched one too many movies because this would never, like, you would have to, it would be an act of Congress to get this kind of investigation unless it's on a show on HBO like House of Cards. But he doesn't know that. So she says, and they sent me her picture and guess what they did? They also sent me the camera footage of following her car. Because I don't know if you guys know this, like side note, Big Brother's watching along the roads, especially in Florida, but I'm sure it's in other states too.
CCTV, right?
There's CCTV everywhere. So I can go to my Google machine, or not the Google, I can go to my PI resources, type in a tag number, and it'll show me every camera that's ever picked up that tag as recently as this morning. So like, it'll tell me, oh, it saw them here, and they were on I-4, and then they were on I-75, and then they were at this parking lot in this Publix or whatever. Like, so I can get that.
Oh, I wish I could get a CCTV footage of this man's face when he was on the other end of that call.
She said they were able to get me the footage and follow the car along the roads to everywhere it went, all the way to her house. Y'all, this is in the movies. It would be crazy. Do you know
what does she have to lose? I mean, he's either going to call her bluff and then she's going to be like, well, too bad. I know it's this woman.
Right.
Or he's going to just pee his pants, which he deserves.
So she says, so the Department of Transportation, or I don't remember what, I think it was like Florida Highway Motor Vehicle, whatever. She says, and this is her, I have not coached her at all.
You're
this
just eating popcorn.
Naive skirt wearing Christian woman with a baby on her hip, she barefoot in the kitchen. She is doing the damn thing and I'm loving it.
I love her.
Yeah, I do too. She's her own hero. So she says they follow her to this apartment complex and this is after I've given her all the deets, right? We know who this girl is, whatever. And she said, so all I have to do is call the cops and I can tell them everything. And the cops will go there, identify this woman and arrest her. And she said, they've actually done this before. And they said it's actually really easy. So we're just going to call the cops. So together, after you get off work, let's go to the police department. We'll make a report and we'll do the thing, right? So she's like, that's what we're going to do. And he's like, I have to work late tonight. And she's like, well, the police department's open 24 hours. Like, it's fine. Like, you can just go in. Like, they don't close. And so anyway, she's like, well, we can go in together whenever you're ready, but we're going to nail this young lady, right? And he's like, no, that's not necessary, right? Like, it's fine. Let's just pay it. It's fine. Like, it's fine. And he's like, oh, I have a call. I got to go. I'll call you back. So he hangs up. He doesn't even wait for her, let her say, oh no, stay on nothing.
I'm surprised he didn't offer to do it himself and be like, I'll go to the police. I'll take care of it. And then come back and say like, they're doing what they can.
Right. Exactly.
Because that's his move. Okay.
So anyway, so her and I are sitting there talking and we're sitting there for about another 20, 30 minutes. Like she's waiting for him to call back. She's like, he's going to call back. I want to know what he's going to say. And now she's excited. And I was like, good for her. Like she's really getting into it. I love this girl. Right.
It also makes me think, I'm like, does she not want to be married to him? It feels like this response, maybe it's like she's in shock about the actual affair, but it also could just be that she's like, I'm ready to nail this
I think
guy.
For me,
Fuck
personally, I think she knew. And she didn't want to be mad because she didn't know for sure, but now she knows for sure. So anyways, so we're sitting there for the next 20, 30 minutes and we're just I'm playing with the baby a little bit and we're talking a little bit about his situation. She's replaying it back to me over and over. Because when you get news, do you ever find yourself like replaying it over and over? Like, okay,
yeah, you're like trying to make it make sense.
Yeah, you're trying to make it make sense. So you're replaying it over and over in your head. Well, while we're talking, we're looking at her social media and her social media disappears, all of them. Her Twitter account, her Facebook account, all the social media that she had, we can't find her at all.
Oh boy.
She has deactivated or deleted or something, all of her accounts, right? Like she's done everything. And so
too late, lady.
Yeah, we already know like who you are. Like it's fine, right? So she's going dark, right? So she decides, well, you know what? We're here. I got some shopping to do. So I'm going to do my grocery shopping and I'm going to head home.
She better charge it to his card.
Right? So she goes home and I don't hear from her for a little bit. We've figured out that this is the woman. We figured out what she's doing, how she's getting his car. So not only is he sharing a car with his wife, but he's going to work and then he's sharing a car with his mistress, whatever, who it wasn't his daughter. And at first I was like, this is too easy. There's no way it's his mistress. There's no way it's his daughter. Like that's too easy. It's got to be something weird, right?
Yeah. And why is she just using the car to go to her job? I'm so confused.
Like, what is she doing? Like,
when are they hooking up? When are they seeing each other?
That was my question. But this is where y'all are going to get mad at me again, because although I formed a relationship with this wife, right? And I found out that upon continuing to talk to her little by little over the next couple months, and she's still like, she said, we still haven't gone to the cops. He wants to decide what he's going to do. He doesn't know that I know. And that's where she stands, right?
How long did that go on?
Well, so I ended up doing a little investigation a couple weeks later and find out that they were able to renew the tags, which means that the tolls have been paid. If you don't pay your tolls and you can't renew your tag, it'll say a toll violation hold, which means that the tag can't. So if I look up your car and you have a toll violation, it'll say Hannah owns this car, but there's a toll violation hold, which means that you can't renew the tag, which is why it's not updated until you pay the tolls. And that's not on there. So either they were able to file a fraud claim, which they weren't able to do because she couldn't legally do that, or they've paid the tolls, right? So I tried getting a hold of her a couple times, which I don't make a habit of doing. Like I don't make a habit of calling these people over to be like, hey, so what happened, right? It's very unprofessional, right? And it's none of my business, but you really want that closure, right? I did talk to her one additional time after that. I left her a voicemail and she was able to... What? Hannah's like freaking out.
I'm like so ready for you to be like, and they're still together and I don't know what happened. And I'm going to be like flipping a table. Okay, she's
gonna pull her hair out. So I did talk to her one time after that. And she said, I'm making plans and I'm making sure my children are taken care of. And last I checked before I told the story, just for due diligence, they are not living together. He still lives in the residence alone, as far as I can tell. And as far as the Professor Sexy or Professor Toll violation, whatever.
Professor
Bankruptcy. Yeah, we'll call her Professor Bankruptcy. She still does not have a car in her name. She still lives in the same apartment. And she has a new social media account with just a picture of her and her dog that is totally private. And it's only one platform. So all the email addresses that she has, and that's all I can find on her. No pictures of him, no sign of him. No anything as far as I can tell. And so that's all I know, is that he no longer lives with the wife, and there has been civil in the state of Florida. You can look up court cases, but if they have anything to do with children, you can't see the details of it. Mm-hmm. So I know that there is a custody situation only because you can't see the details. That tells you that there's children involved, and there is no divorce filed yet as far as I can tell. So I'm going to keep an eye on it and see if I can, if there ever is a divorce or whatever. But
I'll take that as a happy ending, because Diva needed to leave that man, because who cares why, who cares what, who cares how, he was lying.
Yeah.
Strike one.
What sucks is that and here's where it's tricky for me. And here's where your ethical guidelines kind of come in, because I sure as hell, I want to go sit outside their house and be like, okay, where's he at? What's he doing? Is he with the girl? Whatever. I can't legally do that. Then it's harassment, then it's stalking, and that's not right. So I have to mind my manners by way of the Florida state statutes, right? Florida statute,
yes.
Chapter 4.
She's just getting ahead of all the comments that are going to be like, go find them.
Yeah, like I legally can't. And if I were to pursue that, knowing that she has my number, like she could have been calling me 27 times a day and she chose not to. And so I have to take that as a sign that a lot of times in this case, like it's a lot of people feel ashamed. They feel stupid. They feel like they should have known. And so I imagine that you don't want to talk to the person who found out all the information.
Also, she's moving on. Like she's mama bear. She's like, my next step is now, it's not even to humiliate this man that ruined me. It's to protect my children and make it safe for us to live without him. And, you know, you did your job.
But I will tell you also on the church's website where they had their family bio, now it has a picture of her and the children. And it says, this is sister so-and-so, and she's doing this with the youth program and whatever. So they changed it from them to her.
Wait, and I love that the church was supportive. And I don't know the details, but it seems like if that's what the website looks like, then they were like, yeah, GTFO. And also if she's like doing what she needs to for her kids, that's why I talk about, I got this from the Instagram account and podcast. It's called Her First 100K, an FU fund, if you will. I think it's very important that all people, no matter who you are, have an FU fund, which is just a fund that you have if you ever need to be independent. And you just allow yourself to leave.
I forgot to tell you,
but it's important.
When I'm sorry to cut you off, but I have to. I feel like Kanye right now with Taylor. So what happened was after she found out about all the things, right? And after the couple weeks went by and I looked her up, like to kind of see like where she was now or whatever, she has a vehicle registered to her and only her now. So she has a car for her, the kids, and she did not buy it at that dealership that he works at. Just FYI, she did not buy it.
Okay. That's great. No, I think that's great. And you did a really good thing by helping her get this information however you could, because it did not make sense. You know, if it, like you said, if it looks like a duck and acts like a duck, there's something fucking ducky about this.
Now she bought a house, like she's doing well. So good for her. And I'll be honest with you. When I first talked to her, my first instinct was she doesn't, like, bless her heart. Like she's so naive, right? And I think there was a lot of naivete there, but I feel like she knew. There's no way she didn't know something, right? And I just chalked it up to, oh, she's just a naive woman. She's a good Christian gal and that would never happen, whatever. But I feel like at the end of the day, in my gut, I feel like she probably knew. She was able to have that phone call with him so easily. And I was like, holy shit, good for you. Yeah. So she was more than what she appeared to be, is what I'm trying to say. She was less naive than I think she put off.
As was he, obviously. Yeah. But I think also if you're calling a PI, like you don't just call a PI right away. There's more that has to happen. There's more suspicion and doubt. And even if you're not conscious of it, it's like there's another thing going on here.
Well, that's why at first when she called me, she's like, can you investigate this? And I'm like, not really. That's a government situation. Like you got to call the government. Like you got to call the transportation department, the county.
She would have done that if she didn't think there was something fishier. Dogfishier.
I feel like, and she never admitted this, even when I asked her, and she's like, no, not really. But I feel like she might have talked to someone and said, hey, is this weird? Like, have you ever experienced this? And they're like, oh, call a PI or whatever. I don't know, but I do feel like her femtuition was going off from the beginning. And maybe she really didn't know, but by the end, she knew.
Yeah. Y'all, this is also why I don't think it's a good idea, to each their own. I'm not saying you're wrong if you're doing something, but I don't think it's a good idea to have only one partner dealing with all the bills and all the money, because she was able to look at these toll charges, which, things are electronic now. Like it would be so easy for somebody to not get the mail and not see the charges and then have no idea that this is happening. But these little charges are how you find out that something is happening. And it puts you at a deficit and a disadvantage if you are barred from accessing that information by your partner.
One thing that I lose a little bit of sleep over is why would he let this go on for months? Unless he honestly was like, she's stupid. She's never going to figure this out.
I genuinely think that's what it is.
I do too. I think that he took advantage of her naivete. Yeah, he doesn't respect. Absolutely. Yep.
Anyway, that was a good story. Can I verify you that was a bonkers one? And I can't wait to hear what people think.
Thank you for validating me. But I want to know what questions you have. What questions did you have that maybe I missed? That's what I want to know.
This douchebag, excuse me, sorry.
Like, what would you have done differently? And I guess I feel like
if we were a PI, dude, you're amazing.
I guess I just feel
you found all the things.
Could I have identified her better? But And the reason, like when she went into the community college, I'm like, is she studying one of these things? And so I couldn't find her as a student, but that's why, because she was actually doing
if somebody
other things
looked
there.
young and was going into a community college, of course I would assume that they're a student.
Yeah, I definitely, that's why you don't assume, I guess.
I guess, but hey, you got her out of there. And he was obviously up to no good. That's all I need to know. And I don't like him. And I hope you're doing well. If you find this for whatever reason, hun, and your kids, you're an awesome lady who is better than that man treated you by like a million. Ugh. Wow, that was a good one. I love that. And I'm glad he got caught. Guys, check your records. Check those toll charges. Just give him a little look-see-loo.
I'm just saying.
Who knows, man? Wow. Okay, so tell us what you think. Obviously, go to Patreon or social media and all of the theories, please. And if you thought something different throughout, if you had a different theory throughout, even if it was debunked, I want to hear it. Also, I want to hear how other people catch cheaters. Like, I need to verify this again, but I heard recently that, you know, obviously Shakira, hips don't lie, Shakira the singer, I'm actually seeing her in concert soon. She was cheated on, which is like, if Shakira can get cheated on, you know.
Right?
There's no hope for any of us.
Don't feel bad.
But I heard that she found out because she was looking in the fridge and saw that somebody had eaten this jam that like, she knew she was the only one that liked. And she was like, who's been eating my jam? You're having an affair. And she was right. And I was like, well, duh, because femtuition. But also it's like the little things.
Ate her jam?
Yeah, how did you?
How rude!
It's one thing to take the husband; it's another to take the jam.
Don't take the jam. Don't take
the jam. But no, I would feel that way if there was like a dessert or something that I loved that I noticed somebody had been eating. I would be like, the betrayal.
Don't touch it.
But I'm curious if there are any other things like that that have tipped off a betrayal that are kind of like ridiculous.
Yeah, like what weird ways have you caught someone being dishonest or unfaithful?
A dogfish. You know what? We just got to keep our head on a swivel. I like that ever since you said that with the
keep your head on a swivel.
Episode.
Yep.
Head on a swivel. And hopefully this doesn't happen to you. But if it does, you know where to find us.
You can email us your story if you have something to share. Our email address is investigate@thedatingdetectivespodcast.com.
Send us all the things and put in the subject. Like this one would be, I caught my husband cheating because
of a toll violation.
His mistress was stealing her car.
Like wouldn't he be like, hey, stop taking the toll road if you're going to take my car, idiot, or something?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't hold him in the highest regard, so I don't particularly expect the brain to be used so well.
He's a little slow. It's fine.
Yeah, I think he's a little slow. But I guess we bless his heart. We wish him well, and we let karma do her thing.
Let her. That's what we're saying. Anyways, we love you guys. Thank you for listening to this episode of Mackenzie Undercover on the Dating Detectives, and give us a 5-star review on the thing. And if you think it's, just do the 5 stars, please. Thank you.
Thank you. And as always, trust your femtuition.
Okay, love you. Bye.